Showtime.
Hi guys. I. So please, I want to be sure you can all hear me again for the last time. Can you hear me, Hendrik?
I can hear you. I can hear
Okay.
you.
Okay. So welcome, guys, and I'm so excited. So let me properly welcome everyone. Um, I want to welcome you to another learning session hosted by the Google Developer Student Club, University of Lagos. My name is Arelu Ahmed. I'm a community and product manager, and I am also a student at the University of Lagos. I am thrilled to moderate today's learning session. Today's learning session is centered on Compost Camp with a subtopic, an introduction to Compost Camp, education on jetpack compost. To speak to us today, we have the exceptional Sebastian, who is a model engineer at 70th Financials, whose interest centers around anime, technology, and music. Guys, please do me the honor to welcome our speaker in the comment section. I look forward to a great time of learning, but I would like to tell you, please get your questions ready because all questions will be answered today. If you have any question that you probably would like to ask around Compost Camp, if you have any question for a speaker, please get your questions ready, get your notepad ready because it's going to be an insightful session. And trust me, my pen, my notepad, my learning materials are here because of this great session. And also, I'd like us to abide by the community guidelines. If you have questions, you can reach out to any of the admin. And I'll also be in the comments reading your questions. If you'd like to make any comments, you can use the comment section. So please, guys, welcome our speaker. And I look forward to a great time of learning. Over to you, our speaker.
Um, Thank you, Areolua, for the introduction. Yeah, I don't think I am as exceptional as you said, but yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. Okay, so welcome everyone to Jetpack Compose Camp, where I am introducing Jetpack Compose. So I'll be sharing my screen now and I do hope you enjoy the session. Um, can I, can we all see my screen? I would like reactions, please. If you can see my screen. Okay. Uh, I am not seeing any reaction. Can If you can see my screen, can you give me a thumbs up in the comment section? All right. Okay, so introduction to Jetpack Compose Camp. Um, Jetpack Compose Camp is an initiative from the Google team to help new devs, experienced and new upcoming devs pick up Jetpack Compose. So, and I'll be taking you through this session, introducing the framework to everyone. All right. For this session, I'll be your camp leader. And who am I? My name is Bastin Ode, and I am a mobile engineer at 78 Financials. And I have some tidbits about myself. I am primarily a Flutter engineer and with experience building native Android apps with Java and Kotlin. So for my day-to-day activities, I build apps with Flutter, but I have native Android experience, and I also play around with Compose when I feel there's something new in the system. I love movies in various mediums. I love animations. I love live action. I I love movies in general, and I also spend an unhealthy amount of time on X. I still think of it as Twitter on Twitter. So I'm not sure that is a fun fact about myself, but I always have a tab with Twitter open, and that leads me to spending insane amounts of time on it. Camping activities. For this session, I'll be introducing Jetpack Compose to everyone. I'll be guiding us through benefits of using Jetpack Compose for newer Android apps, why you should use Jetpack Compose if you are building newer Android apps. I'm also going to be sharing free resources for learning to work with Jetpack Compose, and we'll have a Q&A session so that I can give you answers to whatever questions you have as regards Jetpack Compose. So, introduction, what is Jetpack Compose? Jetpack Compose is the modern toolkit for building native user interfaces for Android apps. Compose makes it easier and faster to build UIs on Android. So this is a textbook definition. And what led to Compose? On the mobile landscape, we a trend has been going up. A trend has been going up where you have UI as code. This has been prevalent in the web ecosystem for a very long time, but is just getting into the mobile space. So Jetpack Compose is Google's answer to building UI as code, and Jetpack Compose is Google's answer to building UI with code, and it makes it easier and faster. It makes it easier and faster to build apps because your UI is written in the same code as the rest of your system of your mobile apps. What are Compose apps written in? Compose apps are written in Kotlin, which is a language built by the JetBrains team, built and actively maintained by the JetBrains team. Kotlin is a Kotlin can be seen as a superset of Java, but it is another language in its entirety too. It is a better form of Java. So Kotlin is the language that majority of professional Android developers use to build apps. Yeah, for newer Android apps, you are advised to go with Kotlin. It is a Google recommendation. And since that is the recommendation from Google, newer Compose apps are built using Kotlin, which is very interoperable with Java if you have to work with Java libraries. What are the benefits of using Jetpack Compose? You have lesser codes to write. Building before Jetpack Compose came around, native Android devs had to make use of um, the UI builder, which is a drag and drop tool that builds the UI using XML code. So there's disparities between XML code and the Kotlin code used to ensure the app works, right? That disparity caused a lot more code to be written. And moving to Jetpack Compose, you have your UI written directly with Kotlin, which reduces the number of code needed to be written by the system. So do more with less code and avoid entire classes of bugs. Code is simpler and easier to maintain. Yes, it is simpler and easier since you have only one language for your UI and the rest of your system. And any Kotlin developer can debug it. It is very intuitive. Declarative UI. Declarative UI is um, telling the system how to dis- telling the system what to display instead of how to display it. That leads to writing UI code that can be read as English. It is very intuitive. And making the UI work with other states is very intuitive too because of how the code is written declaratively. Like the note under it says, just describe your UI and Compose takes care of the rest. As app state changes, your UI automatically updates. Declarative app Apps written with declarative UI in place, such as Jetpack Compose apps, they they are very reactive apps, and that's because of the intuitiveness it comes with. It comes shipped with. It accelerates the development because of all the bugs that are already mitigated in development. You can ship faster apps and iterate quickly, and that is one of the best benefits of using Jetpack Compose. And it is powerful. It's powerful. You can create very beautiful apps with direct access to the Android platform APIs, with beauty support for material design, dark theme animations, and more. Jetpack Compose comes shipped with its material design spec, which allows you to build UIs with very little amount of work, very interesting UIs with very little amount of work. And that is one of the major selling points of Jetpack Compose. Companies using Jetpack Compose, ex Twitter, they wrote a famous blog post on how they migrated their existing code base to Jetpack Compose and how it has accelerated their development workflow. It has brought about even more seamless experience to their users, and all round the developers are happier with it and the customers are happier with it. Reddit is also one popular app that has migrated to Jetpack Compose. If you notice, these bigger companies they are migrating their apps to Jetpack Compose, not building from scratch, and that's because of how interoperable Jetpack Compose is with the already existing XML framework. Slack is also one of the more popular examples, and these are companies that have reported more their developers' productivity improved ever since migrating to Jetpack Compose, and I do hope, and even more companies are buying into Jetpack Compose as we speak. So, how can you learn Jetpack Compose? How can you learn Jetpack Compose? You can either learn individually. There are self-paced materials on the Google and developer.google.android.com, which is a site hosted by Google for for self-paced materials on learning Android, especially Jetpack Compose. Or you can join a group learning environment like we are with other learners in the community at campus camp sessions. You can learn with organizers like you, where we all learn to use Jetpack Compose better together. And it is the approach I would advise because you learn better with more individuals and you get feedback quickly, so you can become better at the craft. So, what is Compose Camp, which is what this program is all about. So Compose Camp are community organized events focused around how to build apps using Jetpack Compose, where attendees get hands-on coding experience with Compose. So in Compose Camp, it is all about the community, where we all come together to learn Jetpack Compose together and become better at it. Organizers are going to be more experienced, definitely, but then you are also learning with organizers and also co-learners as yourself. So everyone learns together and we all grow together, right? Google provided a wonderful initiative with the Compose Camp, and I would love if everyone here um, delves into that. So yeah, um, that is all about that's all about the Compose Camp and Jetpack Compose. So um, I want to show us some code just to show us how Jetpack Compose apps look, and then we can go to QA. So this is from a project of mine, one of my projects, and it is not open source. So I have sign up screens, and what Jetpack Compose allows you to do is to write, like I mentioned earlier, to write your UI as code. So the basic building blocks of any Compose app are called composables. Composables are functions that emit UI to the user screen, right? So they in the framework, in the Jetpack Compose framework, there are already existing composables for you to work with to get started on whatever app you are building upon. And here are some of them. We have the scaffold and the column. So um to one thing we'll be doing in the compose camp is going through Kotlin for beginners, if for beginners and people who don't have prior knowledge on Kotlin, on the Kotlin language. So we have the scaffold, the column, title text. This is an app defined composable, the app spacer app defined composable. And then we have lazy column. The lazy column takes a lambda to display something. So this is how compose code looks like most of the time. It's just your UI is written as code, as any other Kotlin code, and that is the beauty. I am sorry, I was unable to get the project. I was unable to get the UI up. I wanted to show that. I wanted to show how the UI looked for the code written on here, but I couldn't do that, and I am sorry. Okay, so the Compose Bootcamp, that is that is what we'll be covering on here. We'll be going, we'll build UIs together, we'll learn to manage states for Compose apps, and learn to make API calls, um, display their results, and build fully fledged Android apps with Jetpack Compose. And what is the future of Compose? Compose has been, the team is quite ambitious. The Compose team are quite ambitious, and there's a Compose multi-platform, which is their solution to cross-platform development. So you can have a singular Compose code base that would work on iOS, Android, and the web, and it would and you get similar views on each platform. So we would also cover some basics on getting your app to run on these platforms. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait to start this journey with everyone. So for my question and answer session, before we get on to that, I want to drop a quote from Hemingway. If you can see, the background is a starry night, the night sky. So that I got a quote that has to do with the night sky, the dark. So the night is always darker before the dawn, and life is the same. The hard times will pass, everything will get better, and sun will shine brighter than ever. So in this journey, there are going to be a lot of dark nights. There's going to be a lot of hard work. But I promise, at the end of the program, at the end of the camp, you'll come out a better Jetpack Compose developer than you came in. And for beginners, they would learn to build Android apps with Jetpack Compose, and that is a win. So um thank you. Do we have any questions? Before we enter the question and answer session completely, I'd like to thank everyone. I'd like to thank everyone here. And you can catch me on Twitter, X, Elon changed the name. You can catch me on X at Hendrik, and you can catch me on GitHub at coder named Hendrik, where I build compose projects. I build Jetpack compose projects, and I also work with Flutter. majorly also. All right, so back to the Q&A session. Um, any questions? Okay. Are there resources that are beginner friendly? Yes, there are resources. There are resources to learn Jetpack Compose. I mentioned developer.android.com. I mentioned developer.android.com. They have a lot of resources for getting started with Kotlin if you have no prior experience, and then getting into Jetpack Compose. They provide a lot of pathways where you can learn Jetpack Compose and earn badges for completing each pathway. It is a very nice gamified system, and I would advise you pick that too. Are
And
there some
thank you so much,
requirements?
Seb. Thank
Okay.
you. It was an insightful session, short but insightful. And I think there's a question here. Someone also asked earlier that is there any community that you belong to that, aside from the GDSC, that has impacted your journey on using Jetpack Compose that you would like to share?
The um in developer.android.com, I believe there is a Discord channel, Discord or Slack, where for data compose developers, where you can connect with more devs. I am on some Android developer communities where I talk to fellow Android devs concerning Jetpack Compose, and the documentations have been very helpful. Twitter is also a good place to connect with other Android developers. There are communities, Twitter communities that you can join also for to improve on your knowledge.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. And I think the last question that we have in the comments again is: are there some requirements in terms of software I should learn before are there some software are there some requirements in terms of software? Um, the question is not clear, but yeah, more like are there some
Yeah,
requirements to know before you
before
learn?
learning Jetpack
Yeah.
Compose. Not really. If you are a total beginner, you have to learn Kotlin first, since it is the language used to write apps in Jetpack Compose. So you just have to learn Kotlin, and then you can get started with Jetpack Compose. It is the guides are very intuitive, and if you be in Compose camp, we'll go through the guides together, and we'll all learn about it together. For for more experienced devs, getting started with Kotlin, there are a lot of similarities that Kotlin has with other programming languages. So picking it up should not be much of an issue. And Google has great guides on picking up Jetpack Compose for already existing developers. So there are really no prerequisites. Just I guess the only prerequisite is the motivation to learn. Once you want to learn, you are good to go.
Okay, back on motivation. Thank you so much for answering that question. The final question is: what's that thing that has constantly kept you motivated? What's your motivation? Yeah.
Um,
On your
my
journey
motivation,
as a tech person, yeah.
yeah, my motivation is really to be the best software engineer I can be. So I always try to get better when I feel I am lacking some knowledge somewhere. This is the field I would spend the rest of my life in. So I have to I have to make it count, and that acts like as enough motivation for me most of the time.
Yeah, thank you so much. And do we have any more questions from the audience? I just checked. We do not have any. So maybe it's a good time to call it a day. But before you disconnect, I'd like to inform you guys that there will be a boot camp coming up very soon. So please stay tuned, check your emails regularly, check the website regularly because more updates will be shared. And please plan to attend the boot camp, plan to be a part of it as we'll be sharing subsequent information in the community. Thank you so much, Seb, for your time. Thank you. We look forward to doing this with you again.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you, everyone. And it was
Bye
nice
bye.
sharing. And I hope I've inspired everyone to pick up Jetpack Compose. Goodbye.
Well, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.